What's going on, everybody? Welcome to After Prison Show. And first, before I even begin this, I want to tell you that after yesterday's video where I told you about the most annoying guy that I ever met in prison, old Shifflett.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Shifflett, and my daddy, he's a fisherman waterman, and I'm a waterman fisherman too, and we catch all the crabs. You interested in some crabs? I could give you a discount on some bushels right now. I just gotta call daddy up on the phone.
I do not know anything about the water or the fishing industry. Do you have some coffee for touch 'em 2 times Tommy? Not 1 bag, not 3 bags, but maybe 2 bags of coffee. We actually found him. Yeah, it took a hell of a lot of work to be able to find this guy and get in contact with him. We were able to do both of those things, and I'm telling you, we got something big planned with old Shifflett. With all of that being mentioned, in today's video, I want to tell you about the worst jail experience I ever had. And what adds to this and only compounds this even further is what I was locked up for was something I didn't even do. You know, from time to time, people will ask me, Joe, while locked up, did you ever meet anyone who was innocent or who you thought was innocent? And the crazy thing about it is in this story, I myself was actually innocent. I was sitting in jail for something I didn't even do. And there was one little itty bitty thing that could prove my innocence. But that little piece of evidence ends up vanishing into thin air. This story takes place back when I was like 18 or 19 years old. And back during this time, drugs were a huge part of my life. Not so much selling them, but I was definitely doing them. And for those of you out there who may think that, you can just go about doing drugs and nothing's ever going to come from that, everything's going to be okay, let this story that I'm about to tell you prove otherwise, because it most certainly does. But to say during this time in my life was a crazy time is a complete understatement. I mean, my life was completely out of control, and so also were the lives of everyone else who was around me during this time. And the people who were around me during this time, these weren't even my friends, really. I mean, these were the parents of the girl that I was dating. But during all of this, I was first starting to get into trouble. I had just recently caught my very first charge, a grand larceny, and I was also on the run because of this charge, because I had failed to appear in court, where at court, they were wanting me to testify against my co-defendant, who I thought was my best friend during the time. This is a pretty fitting shirt to be wearing while telling this story. But I was on the run because I had failed to appear in court, and I was now staying in a different city. I was staying in the same city where my girlfriend at the time, she resided at. She was living with her parents. And it was through her parents that I was actually able to go to work, even though I was running from the damn law. Because this girlfriend's parents had started their own renovation company. And I'm not really sure that they knew that I was on the run. I'm quite certain that they didn't. But they had started their own renovation company, and they were getting all of this work through this realty company that was local in the city. And one crazy thing to throw into all of this real quick is that this company these parents had started, this company was not licensed, bonded, or insured. I'm pretty sure they lied about all of this in an effort to be able to get this work through this realty company who just took their word at face value, believing them, and then from there on was just feeding them all of this work. And the reason this is important to throw into this is because during this time, I go ahead and take a shot for every time Joe says during this time, throughout this time, at this time. Yeah, I get it. I probably said that a lot at this point. But because they were getting so much business back then, they were making a lot of money per month. In fact, I can remember like this girlfriend of mine's stepfather, because it was the stepfather and the mother who had started this company. But I can remember him telling me that they were making like $9,000 to $11,000 a month. And back then, me hearing that, I'm like, $9,000 to $11,000 a month? Man, y'all millionaires! And I mean, hell, thinking about that now, $9,000 to $11,000 a month, that's a lot of damn money. And because business was booming for these folks, they were giving me all sorts of work, paying me a whopping $8 an hour. $8 an hour? You gonna pay me $8 an hour? I'm a millionaire! Things were going pretty good for this girlfriend's parents' business that was completely illegal back then. But it would seem that everybody, me, the mother, and the stepfather, we all had some skeletons in the closet that we were hiding. My skeleton revolved around the fact that I was doing a lot of powder back then. And before I go any further, all jokes aside, and as serious as I can possibly tell this to you, this is really not a story that I'm proud of at all. I hate reliving these type of things from my past when I was doing so bad in life. I'm just hoping that by me doing this,
maybe this reaches somebody on a deeper level and shows them that if they're doing anything similar to what I was doing, it definitely is not worth it. But this girlfriend's mother had a pretty big skeleton in her closet as well. She had suffered from addiction all throughout her life, going through periods where she would do drugs, going through periods where she would be clean, and then it was just starting to come about again right as her little business was booming. Then she was starting to dip right back into addiction, and her drug of choice being crack. Now, another crazy thing about all of this is the stepfather, this guy didn't do anything at all. Here I was doing my thing, the mother was doing her thing. The stepfather, he didn't do anything. But that would end up being pretty short-lived. Because of what the mother was doing, the stepfather would end up dabbling in that as well. And this would end up becoming a big old triangle of everybody who was involved in this little company they had started, dealing with their own addictions. But even with everybody doing their own little dabbling with this, at least at first, things would still continue to go relatively okay. They were still getting tons of work. I still had plenty of work, making that whopping $8 an hour. And in fact, this girlfriend's parents had so much work that they would end up hiring another guy. And this guy that they ended up hiring, I don't even know where they knew this guy from. Maybe they knew him from the circles that they were running in, dealing with their addictions or whatever. But all I know is that this guy that they brought in, he was an addict as well. You got these 4 people all wrapped up in this construction company that isn't licensed, bonded, or insured, getting all of this work through this realty company that probably is none the wiser. They're just happy that these jobs are getting done. This girlfriend's parents is making this whopping $9,000 to $11,000 a month. Sure sounds like a lot of money to be spending on some addictions. Oh, and believe me, it was. But just like anything I imagine that's ever touched by addiction, it's probably gonna end up crumbling to pieces. And that's exactly what would end up happening to this girlfriend's parents' business. Jobs weren't getting done on time, jobs weren't getting completed at all, and ultimately, this company would end up hemorrhaging money. Well, at the time when everything was crumbling to pieces, the cat was completely out of the bag with all 4 of us. The stepfather, the mother, this other guy who was working with them, and me as well. And what this ultimately meant was that we were all doing drugs together. Well, it would be during one of these times when all 4 of us were together, getting high, where this other guy who they had brought on to work with them had supplied this little party with what we were doing, the crack. Hey Joe, you was smoking crack for real? I told you I'm not proud of this story at all. I most certainly dealt with plenty of my own demons back when I was younger. But all of a sudden, during this little party session that we were having, all of what this guy had brought would just disappear. Now, to be completely honest with you, I didn't take this. In fact, I didn't have any idea who took it. 1 second it's there, and 1 second it's gone. All of a sudden, everybody's arguing with everybody. Everybody's pointing fingers at each other. Everybody is completely out of their minds. Hey, yo, where'd my stuff go? I brought this for everybody. Now all of a sudden, my stuff's gone. You took my stuff. Why would I take you? Yeah, I was pretty messed up when all of this was going down. This situation was getting pretty heated, and it's during times like this where violence can definitely occur. Thankfully, it did not. The stepfather would end up kicking me out, he kicked the other guy out, and it was just the mother and the stepfather left there in their own home where we were there doing this with them. And it wouldn't be until the next day where the stepfather would actually come to me because he would confide in me all the time. Joe, you'll never believe what this woman done did. She done took all the money, took off, and she been out there for 2 or 3 days just doing her own thing by herself, using up all the company money. Yeah, the mother, she was definitely out there. But it was the next day where the stepfather would come confide in me and tell me that it was this mother who took this. For whatever reason, she was so high or greedy or whatever, she took this, and they ended up doing that together after we had gotten kicked out of the house themselves. Now, as if all of this wasn't already bad enough, this guy who lost what he had brought to this house, he was still pretty mad about this situation. And he was calling the parents, telling them that he was about to press charges, saying that somebody had robbed him. And you know, the only reason I was finding this out is, again, because this stepfather, he was telling me this. Well, the craziest damn thing would end up happening as this guy was calling, threatening to press these charges. The mother would end up telling this guy that it was me, that I did this. And why she did this, I mean, the only explanation I can come up with is because she was a damn addict. She was a fiend, and she was going to do whatever she had to do to spare herself and make sure she could still be out there doing what she wanted to do. So yeah, she would tell this guy that it was me who did this, and that if he was going to press charges,
then it was me he needed to press those charges on. Now, with everything the stepfather was telling me, he certainly wasn't telling me none of this. He wasn't telling me, hey, yo, the mother done told this guy it was you. Police about to come arrest you for a robbery charge right now. Yeah, he certainly wasn't telling me any of that, and the only way that I would find out that this is what had happened would be when the police were knocking at that door, me opening that door. Hello? What's going on? Joe Guerrero? Yeah, that's me. Hey, go ahead and put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest. Well, allegedly, I robbed somebody. You know, I was thinking about all of this. I mean, this was a fucked up situation to go through. I end up getting arrested. They take me down to a police precinct and they put me in an interrogation room. And this would be the first of 3 different times in my life where I would end up being interrogated. Good God, Joe, most people don't get interrogated 1 time in their life. You've been interrogated 3 different times. Oh, you bad for real. You bad for real. This would be the first time in my life I've ever been interrogated. And when they put me in this room, there's no good cop, bad cop. It's simply they get right to the point. Hey, yo, you robbed this guy, you're gonna be going away for life. You know how much time a robbery charge carries? You about to be going under the prison. Hey, I didn't even do this. I did not do this. I don't know what happened. I didn't rob nobody. Interrogation is not a fun thing to go through at all. I didn't admit to anything because there was nothing for me to admit to, and they end up just taking me to the jail, charging me with robbery. I end up in Norfolk City Jail at 18 or 19 years old, a little scrawny white kid. I ain't gonna be robbing nobody. I end up getting housed in a medium custody cell block that's completely overrun by gang activity. I get jumped within the first week that I'm in there, and then they end up moving me to maximum security. I mean, things for me at this point were just going pretty damn bad. But it's while I'm in this jail that I'm gonna be dealing with all sorts of craziness. And the first part of this craziness definitely pertains to me going to court for the very first time. And it's when I go to court for this very first time that I'm sitting down in this little holding cell waiting to go into the courtroom. I have no idea who my lawyer is. I know I'm gonna have this court-appointed lawyer. And this lawyer finally then walks up to this cell block saying, Guerrero, is there a Guerrero in here? Hey, I'm right here. Get me out of here. Get me. I didn't do anything. I go up to talk to this lawyer, and the first thing this guy says to me, I'm trying to find your paperwork real quick. You're in here for a murder charge? What? No. Hey, man, I got a robbery charge. I ain't got no murder. I got you right here. My bad. I had you confused with somebody else. Robbery. Hey, the first thing that I want to tell you about this is if you get convicted of this, it's a minimum of 20 years. What? Oh, God, you gotta give me. I didn't even do this. Yeah, I'm pretty certain that was my reaction when he told me that. This guy doesn't have any idea who I am. He thinks I'm sitting in here on a much serious charge when I'm already sitting in here for a very serious charge that I didn't even do. And I'm trying to convey that very last point there to that court-appointed lawyer. I did not do this! I'm sitting here for something I didn't even do! And I don't think I could have conveyed this any more sincerely to this guy, but it doesn't even matter because I'm sitting in jail for this, so automatically it's gonna look like I probably did whatever I'm being accused of doing. All this lawyer tells me is, hey, look, we're gonna see what kind of evidence they got against you, and at the very least, let's go ahead and see if we can get your bond reduced because I had a $20,000 bond at this time. Joe, you was making $8 an hour out there working with that company. Where these people think you gonna get $20,000 from? Yeah, exactly. But again, this lawyer tells me, hey, look, at the very least, we're gonna go in here and try to get your bond reduced because it's close to Christmas time. So we'll ask the judge if he can find it in the kindness of his heart to consider a bond reduction because of the holidays. And you know, at this point, I've not really been locked up that much in my life, but this doesn't even sound like anything that would ever be happening inside of the courtroom. But yet we go into the courtroom, and standing right there is this guy who was working with this girl's parents, this guy who has accused me of robbing him because this mother has pointed the finger at me. And he's ready to testify saying that I stole $150 from him. Ain't no mention at all about the fact that it was drugs. But this arraignment court hearing begins, and it's here where they want to see what kind of evidence they have against you so that they can go ahead and send it up to high court where they can go ahead and go with the trial. And you know, God bless my little court-appointed lawyer who tried his damnedest to attack the credibility of this guy. Because my court-appointed lawyer would ask this guy, do you have any sort of a criminal record? A record? Man, I've been to prison 4 different times. I got me a robbery, a strong arm robbery, a grand larceny, and what's that other charge called? Not a first-degree murder, second-degree murder. A manslaughter?
Yeah, that's it right there. I got a manslaughter.
Your Honor, this guy, his credibility shouldn't even be taken into consideration. He's been in prison 4 different times, and I mean, just based upon the extensiveness of his criminal history, how can we take this guy as a credible witness? You know, I'm listening to all of this take place, and I'm just thinking to myself, yeah, I don't know where I got Johnny Cochran from, but this guy, I'm about to get off on this charge that I didn't even do. But yeah, that just wasn't going to happen because the judge would counter saying, you're right, he does have a pretty extensive criminal history. But he was very forthcoming to admit to the court that he has been to prison 4 different times for robbery, strong arm robbery, grand larceny, and not a first-degree murder charge, not a second-degree murder charge, but a manslaughter charge, Your Honor.
Yeah, that's it right there. A manslaughter.
He's a credible witness. Things just weren't looking good for old Joe. Oh, and just to go ahead and throw this in here as well, the judge, he would consider that bond reduction because of the holidays. A bond reduction you're asking for because of the holidays? He's got a $20,000 bond. You know what? Because I'm feeling jolly, let's go ahead and make it $15,000. Merry Christmas. Now, I know throughout this entire story, I haven't mentioned the girlfriend at all during this. But this court date would wrap up and I would end up going back into the jail to deal with all sorts of crazy stuff, getting my commissary stolen from me, being the only white guy inside of this maximum security housing unit in the city of Norfolk, at 18 or 19 years old, scrawnier than a mother. Yeah, they was just taking advantage of old Joe in there, I gotta tell you. But all of that aside, you know, I was kind of maintaining contact with the girlfriend. However, it would only end up seeming that this girlfriend's parents would end up having this girl basically play the hell out of me. Because this girlfriend would end up telling me on the phone, Joe, things are so bad out here. My parents are just so far gone. I mean, we got no money. We ain't got no groceries. They about to cut the power off. Joe, we need some help. You know, you left your big old jacked up Toyota truck out here. Do you think maybe you could sign over the title to my parents so they could sell it for some money? We really need to keep the power on, Joe. Now, you know, as I'm hearing this, I mean, I'm genuinely feeling bad because here I was wrapped up with them, doing this bad stuff with them, dealing with addiction with them. And I've been in the jail at this point for probably like a month or 2. I've sobered up. I've gotten clean. I'm dealing with all sorts of problems in here. I can't emphasize that enough. But you know, I'm seriously considering signing over a title to a vehicle that I left out there when I got arrested to them, if that could help them in any way. I'm hoping that they'll use that money for the right reasons and not to continue doing all of the bad stuff that they were ultimately probably going to end up doing. But as I'm considering this, I'm still a little on the fence about doing this because I'm thinking, you know, what if I do sign this over to them and it does absolutely no good? They just sell my vehicle and just use that to continue on. Yeah, I don't want to contribute to that at all. But here's where they got me. They got me. They played old Joe like a damn fiddle. Joe, listen, things might be okay for you. My mom told me that she got a message from that guy who charged you with that charge you're sitting in jail for, and he said all you have to do is pay him $150 and he's gonna drop the charge, Joe. That's all we gotta do. We've got the message. We've got the message. We can take this to court and use this for you. This will help you. But we're gonna need you to sign over that title to that vehicle first. You're telling me this guy called and left a voicemail saying that if I paid him $150, he'll come to court and throw this case out? This voicemail message could be the evidence that I need that could potentially prove something. Maybe that this guy was just making all of this up, or maybe that there's a chance that I didn't do this. I hung to the hope of this voicemail message being that one sole piece of evidence that I needed, like a man might hold on to the pocket of another grown man in prison. And because of that, I did end up signing over the title of my vehicle to this girlfriend of mine at the time's parents. But when I did so, no voicemail message would ever be produced for me. In fact, during one of the last times that I talked to this girlfriend of mine, and you know how ironic it is that shortly after I signed over this vehicle, this girl was gone. But during one of these final times when I talked to her, she told me that her mother had lost the message, accidentally erased the message, their phone had gotten cut off or disconnected or something along those lines. The truck title and selling the truck, it just wasn't enough. Things were still so bad for them out there. Joe, the phone is disconnected. I can't hear you, Joe, he's gone. Let's go. Hey, wait for me, y'all. Yeah, shortly after I signed over the title to that vehicle, The girl was gone. There was never a voicemail that was produced for me. And I was left to sit in that jail facing that damn robbery charge, that thing that I didn't even do, completely by myself. It would be a few months later where I would end up going to court and my lawyer would come at me with a plea bargain. And I don't know what the reason for this plea bargain was. Maybe it was because of the fact that my criminal record wasn't so bad during this time, or maybe it was because of the fact that there really was not a lot of evidence against me saying that I did this, other than this guy saying that I did this. And you know, in a lot of cases, that's all they need is just somebody saying you did something. But my lawyer would come to me with a plea bargain saying, plead guilty to simple assault. Simple assault? I never even touched this guy. Plead guilty to simple assault and petty larceny, and you'll end up with time served because you've been in here for like 4 or 5 months at this point, and then you'll be able to go home. And you know, as bad as I didn't want to take anything that they were offering to me, I didn't want to take this assault charge. I never touched this guy. I didn't want to take this petty larceny charge. I didn't take anything from this dude. As bad as I did not want to take this plea, all I could think to myself was, if I fight this and I lose, well, my lawyer told me that it's a minimum of 20 years. But if I just go ahead and take this plea bargain, well, at least then I'll be getting released. And you know, it's a pretty messed up feeling having to go into a courtroom and plead guilty to something you didn't even do. I lost 4 or 5 months of my freedom because of this. I lost my truck because of this. I lost this girlfriend who I probably never even really had in the first place because of this. I certainly lost a few fights and some commissary because of this as well. And you know, the damnedest thing about all of this is I didn't learn anything from this. In fact, I would just continue right after getting released. I would never see this girl again neither. I just got to throw that in here as well. When I got released, that family nor that girl lived in the city of Norfolk no more. Last I heard, they moved to Northern Virginia, and I don't even know if they're still around. But I would not learn anything from this because I would get released and I would go right back out there doing the same old thing, running with people that I knew I had no business even being around. And it would take me all the way up from 18 or 19 years old, getting locked up, getting released, getting locked up, going to prison, going to jail, and then finally going to prison for 7 damn years at the age of 25 years old and coming home at 32 before I'd finally understand that that just ain't the type of life I wanted to be living. You know, I ain't learned nothing from that situation at all. But I hope to God somebody watching this video, maybe they learned something from it themselves. And though this is an embarrassing, degrading, just horrible story that I don't feel cool talking about, I don't even want to share this kind of stuff with you guys. I don't know. Maybe it helps somebody else. Hey, look, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did so, please leave a like and a comment letting me know exactly what you thought about it. As always, until next time, enjoy life, the free world. Never take a moment for granted and make the most of every day. Peace!